You're just completely one-sided.
Okay, what's your take from LeBron?
From LeBron's perspective, he has a right to be blindsided if he has no idea of what's taking place.
Right.
I'm looking like, really? After everything that we've accomplished, basically, I came back here not just because of the Cleveland fans and this is home, but because I saw you here and I wanted to play with you. And now you want to leave me?
Wait, you're assuming that Kyrie and LeBron had a good relationship.
No, I'm just saying. There's a lot of assumptions taking place.
I know. I see what you're saying.
By the way, here's Kyrie Irving's stats with and without LeBron.
He's not everything.
Better at. Oh, it's not everything. So the money's not. So LeBron's
You're
giving
the one
you.
who always says the stats aren't everything.
By the way, so you're
yes,
getting.
You are that. That is.
Yeah.
You do say that.
All right.
You do say.
So LeBron's giving him titles, finals, stats, freedom of media. Doesn't have to play defense.
Maybe I just Kyrie wants a happy, happy.
I don't think
happiness.
Happy.
You got to understand a guy who's as competitive as a Kyrie Irving. I watched this guy. He has some YouTube posts where he's in a gym, an athletic gym, doing the same things to just everyday Joes that he's doing to guys in the pros right now.
LeBron does that too.
Ultra competitive. My point in saying is, it's not about the stats. It's not about any of that. It's not about.
What's it about?
It's about him wanting a little bit more recognition and probably feeling like he deserves
more recognition.
He's
the third most talked about basketball player on the planet.
Look, when you look at Cleveland and when you hear, and again, I say all of this, and I'm a LeBron fan.
You don't sound. You're like Broussard. Broussard comes on the show twice a week. I'm a big LeBron fan. Then bashes him for 10 minutes.
I'm
not defending either guys. All I'm saying is, from LeBron's perspective, I would be disturbed. I would be pissed.
Yes.
I would be pissed.
Furious.
But if I'm Kyrie, I'm like, you don't know what I'm putting up with.
Wait, Greg, let me ask you this as a player, because this is what I've heard.
My maid was late 10 minutes yesterday. You don't know what I'm putting up with.
Colin.
No, we would never understand. That's my point. We would never understand.
There's a dog walking on my private beach right now. It is ruining my Starbucks latte.
Maybe that's very upsetting to you. We don't know.
This
We're not
is
going to judge.
Gross.
Wait, Greg, let me ask you this, though, okay? Because what I've heard is that before they won their championship, that whenever they would go on the road, LeBron would go out to dinner sometimes with the opposing teammates, right? And not with Kyrie and his own team.
God.
And Kyrie didn't like that. How would that feel to you? For example, when they came to play the Clippers, LeBron would be out with Chris Paul and never hanging out with Kyrie.
Personally, I mean, I wouldn't care about that.
Yeah.
I personally wouldn't care about that.
Because you're a grown-up.
But I wouldn't care about that for the simple fact that, I mean, in today's NBA,
you hang out with your buds.
Off the field, I mean, we see a Draymond Green and a LeBron go head-to-head every finals as if they dislike each other, as though there's no rapport there. Off the field, you can't separate the two.
Okay, we got to go. It's amazing. This was good.
Stop it.
I don't need your football stuff. Just your NBA insider.
There we go.
It's the hurt. It's funny. I hear a lot of fans will say, I can't watch the NBA. Golden State's going to win it again. Well, if you live in the South, you don't think Alabama's going to win the SEC? Like, I was looking over this weekend as we'll have Brady Quinn. He was at the Big Ten Media Days top of next hour. We'll go back to Cowboys camp, talk some football here for a couple minutes before we go to the top of the hour. When the people complain that we always know who's going to win the games, you went and watched the movie Titanic and you knew the ending. I mean, we all knew the ending to Titanic. You still went and watched the movie.
But you didn't know that Jack dies.
I watched Apollo with Tom Hanks. I know the ending.
The ship? Okay.
You always know the ending to movies. This idea that if I know the ending, I don't like it. Alabama, the last, I think it's like 27 games they've played in the SEC, they've won 25. The only team that beat them cheated, Ole Miss. Alabama's going to go undefeated or lose one game. You're still going to watch the games. This idea that I'm not going to watch, like, I know New England is going to win their division. And I know New England is an odds-on favorite to win the AFC this year. I don't necessarily think they'll win the Super Bowl, but I think But I think they'll probably win the AFC. I'm not going to watch any less football. I think we make too much of this. Well, I know who's going to win. I'm not going to watch. Tiger Woods, I knew was going to win virtually every tournament he was in for 10 years. I never watched more. I would argue we want to watch greatness and excellence and dominance. I only watch women's basketball when UConn's on, knowing they have almost no chance to lose the game.
So maybe it's like, even if you know the end of the story, like the Titanic is going to go down, you don't know the details about what else happens. So you want to see how it's done.
It's how it's done. I never go to I very rarely go to a movie or a restaurant without seeing reviews. Like when I go to a movie, I go to Rotten Tomatoes. If it's not over 85, I'm not going to the movie. When I go to a restaurant, I always have, you've told me it, like you just told me this morning about a vegan restaurant my wife would like. I'll never just stumble into a restaurant.
Right. Recommendations.
I'll always go in a recommendation. So I know it's going to be good. Like I don't like the idea of like guessing and surprise parties.
We know that.
I'm not a surprise guy. I like answers. I like watching excellent football. So I'm going to watch Penn State play. Like this year, I think the Big Ten's the best conference. That has not always been the case. In fact, about 6 years ago, if you go back 6 years ago and find the Big Ten bowl scores, now what has changed? There's still more good players in the South, Texas, California, Georgia, Florida. The thing that's changed, when anybody whines about how much college football coaches make, the reason the Big Ten is now so much better than 5 years ago, they spent all these money on coaches. And so when I watch the Big Ten this year, I know exactly what's going to happen. Ohio State or Penn State are going to win it. Michigan's going to be in a battle for second. Alabama's going to win the SEC. Washington and USC, mark it down, are going to play for the Pac-12 championship. Oklahoma's going to win the Big 12. I mean, there's never been a year where I didn't feel more secure about what's going to happen. And I can't remember a year I wanted to watch college football more than this year. All the big heavyweights are here. They've all got really good coaches. Like all the really good programs, Oklahoma changed coaches. They have the right coach. They got the right momentum. This whole surprise thing's overrated.
Well, it's like, if you're going to a really good movie, you're excited to see it.
I like good. I like excellence. Hour 3 coming up. Brady Quinn. It's The Herd. This is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. We'll go to the Big Ten Media Days here. Big Ten is being featured and called this year the best conference in college football, and I do agree, not just because we at Fox Sports 1 now have secured the rights to the lead position of the conference. I think they spent money on really good coaches. And college football, there's this narrative out there, the kids aren't being paid. I can't believe what you're paying the coaches. Professional sports is not about coaching. College sports is all about coaching. I think a college football coach has every right to make more than an NFL coach. Tom Brady, Derek Carr. I mean, do you think Jack Del Rio's a great coach? You think Jack Del Rio's a solid coach? Guess what? He got fired. He got fired in Jacksonville. USC wouldn't give him the lead job. And then he goes to Oakland and wins a bunch of games. Why? Because of Derek Carr. Derek Carr. Andrew Luck, is he getting a great coaching job? Does he have great offensive lines? You have a quarterback in the NFL, you win. College sports, look at Kentucky pre-John Calipari. Look at Kentucky basketball post-John Calipari. They're the most talked about college basketball program outside of Duke in the last 20 years. This idea that college kids should be paid and the coaches are greedy, I have no problem on the open market somebody paying Nick Saban $20 million a year. I think he's more valuable than virtually every professional coach in America. By the way, Luke Walton's record with the Warriors was the same winning percentage as Steve Kerr and the same winning percentage with the Warriors as Mike Brown. Professional sports is about the players. In college, it's about who can recruit the players. And Nick Saban and Bob Stoops and Urban Meyer and Jim Harbaugh, they change everything. The Big Ten right now is the best conference. It's got the best coaches. Think how good the coaching is in the Big Ten right now. If Alabama's Nick Saban retired, Harbaugh would get an interview at Alabama. Urban Meyer would get an interview. James Franklin would get an interview. Minimum 3 guys. If Urban Meyer retired from Ohio State, who would they interview? They wouldn't interview Nick Saban because he's 65. Who would they interview from the SEC? They wouldn't interview anybody. Kevin Sumlin, he's about ready to get run out. Jim McElwain at Florida, my buddy, good, but hasn't proven anything yet. I mean, that's the difference right now. College sports, you pay the coach whatever. Don't listen to the media. Don't listen to the narrative that coaches are overpaid. You look around college football as we get ready for this season. The Big Ten was on the precipice of irrelevancy 5 years ago. They were going to Rose Bowls and getting blown out at half. They were not competitive. They were being humiliated in major games. They are now the best conference in college football. And the only reason is not because the footprint hasn't changed. There's still more good athletes in the South. There's still more good athletes in Texas. There's still more good athletes in Florida, Georgia, and Los Angeles. They've changed because they paid huge money for the top coaches. And right now, the Big Ten, who's their seventh best coach? Lovie Smith? He went to a Super Bowl. The NFL doesn't even look to the SEC for coaching. They don't. Give me the history of SEC coaches that have gone to the NFL and done anything. Spurrier bombed, Saban bombed. Pac-12's giving him Pete Carroll. He's giving him John Harbaugh. He's giving him Marv Levy. He's giving him Bill Walsh. Are we ready to go to Brady Quinn via the Cowherd Global Satellite Network? Here we go, the Big Ten Media Days in Chicago. All right, let's start, Brady, with Michigan. I said a couple years ago with Jim Harbaugh, I didn't think he'd make Michigan a top 10 program in 3 years because I didn't see who was leaving the top 10. Ohio State had Urban, Oklahoma had Stoops, Saban had, Alabama, and I'm like, okay, I think Michigan's going to be really good. But who's leaving? Well, it just so happens that Oregon didn't work, and now they're out of it. When I say Michigan today, they return 6 or 7 starters. Are we getting, Brady, overheated on Michigan, who could very well be a third-place team in the Big Ten?
No, I don't think so. And for the point you just made earlier, I mean, look what Jim Harbaugh has done wherever he's been, whether it's been at USD or Stanford or with the 49ers, even developing some of their young talent and turning that team into a team that went to a Super Bowl back in 2012. So I think you look at the job that he's done at Michigan, it's in part because of the coaching style. He's a teacher, Colin. He takes time to make sure he teaches the fundamentals and techniques that he wants to see on game day, and the players are able to execute. And it's not just him. It's guys like Don Brown, his defensive coordinator, who he brought in last year and did a tremendous job, or Pep Hamilton, who thought that it's greener pastures to go back to college football instead of trying to stay with the Cleveland Browns. And he'll do a tremendous job with the development of Wilton Spate as he continues to grow and mature as a quarterback. So it's the combination of his coaching ability, his assistants, and then finally the recruiting job that he's done. He had another top 5 class this year. He continues to reload every single year. And those players might not be as experienced or may not have as many starts, but they do have some playtime experience. And I think that makes it an easier transition for a lot of the players entering into some of those starting roles.
It's funny. I think Ohio State's going to win the conference, but I could make an argument that I think Penn State's every bit as good, but Penn State's schedule is just really brutal. A lot of tough big road games. Is it possible, maybe even plausible, because I think there are 4 teams in this conference I really like: Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, and Wisconsin. When it all settles out, Brady, you've looked at the schedules. Kind of give me a sense of where you see it all falling out to.
I think everyone's going to be looking at Ohio State facing Wisconsin, probably in the Big Ten championship. You look at the Big Ten West. I just think there's too much of a transition that Minnesota's got to go through with the first-year head coach PJ Fleck, and they still got to figure out who their starting quarterback is. You can make the case for Nebraska as well, same thing, as far as trying to figure out who the starting quarterback is going to be. So I think Wisconsin has somewhat of an easy pass, at least in the sense of who's in their division of the Big Ten. And you look at Ohio State, granted they lost a good portion of their secondary, but that's something that they dealt with last year. In 2015, they lost 3 starters to the NFL. They lost 3 again this year. I think they'll be able to handle it. They seem to in 2016. And they've got their quarterback returning in JT Barrett, which I think is incredibly invaluable for any team that's got a team that's on the cusp of trying to get to the college football playoff or win a national championship. So those 2 teams seems to be the ones that are, really looking forward to meeting in the Big Ten championship. But that doesn't mean Penn State can't spoil that. I think I'm just a little bit hesitant to completely buy in for a second year because I haven't seen that consistency from them. I think last year, the fact that they were able to surprise everyone was well, it was pretty incredible. Look at the run that they went on after their first 4 games of the season. But now they're no longer the hunter; they're the hunted. They have a bullseye on their back. How are they going to handle that? And can they continue to keep making big plays downfield when they don't have a wide receiver like Chris